Hi, this is Christina, and I am back here at the Stage Nature Center. I'm hoping you all can see and hear me. I apologize. I'm not sure what happened. The video froze. I don't know if I lost connection, but my computer completely froze and I had to restart things. So fingers crossed that this keeps going here. I'm going to bring this up on another computer too so I can monitor and make sure that it looks like it's on track. Let's see here. It's up on another computer too, so I can monitor. I apologize for that. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. All right, I'm back now. So, okay. So again, this is Christina here at the Stage Nature Center. I hope you guys were able to get reconnected okay. Like I said, fingers crossed that my computer doesn't freeze up again. If it does, stay tuned, stay with us, and I will get it restarted again. But right now it looks like it's going smoothly. So like I said, I am a naturalist here at the Stage Nature Center, and I'm coming to you live today from the Stage Nature Center. So I'm excited to be here. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe and healthy. And I'm here to do another live program from the Stage Nature Center while we are closed. So for those of you who might be joining us for the first time or just haven't heard any updates yet, the Nature Center building is still closed. We will be reopening as of right now on June 2nd. So hopefully that date will continue to stay that way, but keep checking our website and Facebook for those updates, and we'll let you know if that date changes. Hello. So, and the trails, though, do remain open, and you can go out on the trails and enjoy nature, but we do ask that you keep practice safe social distancing. Make sure you give yourselves plenty of space apart from each other. If you need to step off the trail, to give yourselves enough room to keep that space, please feel free to do that. We normally ask people to stay on the trails, but we do want people to also practice safe social distancing. So even if you're not too concerned for yourself, please keep that in mind and be respectful of others who are on the trails to make sure that you give yourselves enough space. And but enjoy the trails. So because we're not doing programs right now, all of our programs have been canceled through the end of May, which of course we're very disappointed about. That's the main thing that we do here is do programs for you guys. We are doing these live Facebook programs. So as some of you may know, we are a nonprofit organization, the Troy Nature Society, and because we can't do programs right now, we aren't bringing in the funds that we usually would bring in to help support what we do here, like taking care of the animals and making sure that when we reopen, we can continue to do programs and support the staff. So if you are able to, if you have it in your means to donate, you can donate today through this Facebook post. There should be a donate button, or you can go onto our website and donate as well. So we do appreciate everyone who has donated and to help support us. We've had donations coming through our website, Facebook, and in the mail. So we appreciate that everybody who is trying to continue to support us when everybody is going through these difficult times. With that said, this past Tuesday we did do a naming fundraiser, and this naming fundraiser was for our leopard frog. So today I am going to announce the winner. So what it was is we did a raffle. If you donated $10, your name is put in once into this raffle. If you donated $20, twice, $30, 3 times. And then I've got all the names right here on little sheets of paper that I'm going to mix up here really well so nobody thinks that I'm doing any kind of favoring or anything. There we go. Okay, so it's all mixed up, and then I'm going to choose a name from this collection of names, and whoever's name gets chosen will be the winner of the of the naming fundraiser for our leopard frog. Before I do that, I want to give it a shout out to everybody who did donate and wish them luck. So we had Karen Pope donated, Cheryl Conowicks, Tina Lynn donated, Sherry Wyatt Rolfe donated, and Catherine Lacey donated. So they all donated different amounts for their names to be put in different number of times into the raffle. So without further ado, I'm going to choose a name here. Shake it up one more time. All right. And let's see. Okay. Actually, let me shake it up one more time. I'm not supposed to look. All right. Not looking. Okay. Here we go. Oh, look at that. Karen Pope. So Karen Pope is the winner of the raffle. So thank you for donating to this to the fundraiser to name the leopard frog. If you're watching today, like I said, Karen Pope is the winner. Again, thank you to everybody who donated. We appreciate your support. We'll get Karen can either post a name on the Facebook page of what she would like to name the leopard frog, or she can give it to us later, and of course we'll approve it. But if she does post that here as part of this post, then we will. Then I'll share with you what the name is that she would like to name them. So I'm going to let's see. I'm going to try it here. I have the video up on another computer so I can try to see the comments coming in since they're not showing up necessarily on this one. So give me just a second here because I want to make sure I can see everybody. Try to see the comments come. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, I see the comments coming in now. So yes, thank you to Karen for your donation, and excited to hear what you'd like to name him. Oh, I see that Karen put in her name, and she'd like to name him Leo. So the leopard frog will be named Leo, which is fitting. It is a leopard frog, so Leo, short for Leo, that's cute. So our leopard frog will be named Leo. So again, thank you to Karen, and thank you for everybody who participated in the naming fundraiser. All right, so now that we've gotten taken care of that, we are going to get started on our topic for today. Today we're here to talk about white-tailed deer. And we have a lot of white-tailed deer here on our property, as many of you may know at the Stage Nature Center. If you come out here on the trails, you've probably seen the deer because there are a lot out here. So the Stage Nature Center has a total of about 100 acres between the trails, the nature trails, and then the farm part of the property. And we have about 2 miles of trails. So a lot of people are surprised when they find out just how much we have here at the Stage Nature Center, because it doesn't look like a lot from the road. And one of the animals that we see here a lot are the deer. And a lot of people believe that we probably do have an overpopulation of deer. There were some studies done back in 2010, 2011 in this region. But we haven't done a current study of just how many deer we have here. We think we probably have, at least 40 to 50 deer that live in this nature preserve and in the surrounding area. The deer that we see here, some people think that, they must be our pets, or maybe they are belong to us. But as I mentioned before, all of the wildlife that we have here is all wild. We do have animals inside the building, and we have the owls that live with us that we take care of, that are our animal ambassadors that a lot of you have met over the previous weeks. But the rest of the animals that live out on the preserve are all wild animals, and we provide a nice, safe place for these animals to survive and to live. And we restrict a lot of activities here that would be disruptive for the wildlife, like bicycling and walking your pet dog on the trails, or running. Collecting of any kind is not allowed out here, even collecting mushrooms. I know that this is a popular place for people to go look for mushrooms and collect, but we don't allow these kind of activities because it helps the wildlife thrive and also helps them feel safe, and that's one reason we get to see them so well. So the wildlife does do pretty well here on the property, on our nature preserve, and in the surrounding neighborhoods. And like I said, the deer are not stuck here. We do have fences around the property, and a lot of people are shocked to learn that these deer can jump these fences that are around the property. One of these days I'm going to get a good video showing the deer jumping these fences around the property, because it is pretty impressive. But they can jump over something that's 8 foot high. They have springs in their legs. A lot of people are shocked to learn that. So the fence isn't really to keep the deer on the property. The fence is just to show the border of the property and to show that people need to come in through the main trail entrance to come onto the trails onto the property. So today we're going to explore some of the videos that I've taken of deer here, some pictures as well. I've been out on the trails a lot the past couple of weeks, taking videos and pictures to share with you all, so that way you can feel like you're here with me, exploring the wildlife. So I'm going to switch over to the videos in just a moment, and then as I'm showing these videos, I will continue to talk, so that way you can learn more about what we're seeing. So before I do that, I'm going to check here again to see if I had any more questions. So we do, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I am kind of going back and forth between two devices here, and I'm here by myself. So I will do the best that I can to answer your questions while I'm doing this live stream. If I can't answer them now, then I will go back to them after this live stream and answer your questions. All right, so I am going to start the videos here. Let's see. Okay. So here's the first video that I have here in our presentation, and this is a video of a doe that I saw out on the trails the other day. Like I said, we see a lot of deer here, and right now we are seeing a lot of deer that appear to be pregnant. This female looks like she's pregnant. So let me tell you a little bit about our deer here. The deer that we see on our property are called white-tailed deer. Now her tail is down right now, but if her tail were to go up, you'd see that it's white underneath, and that's why they're called white-tailed deer. And that tail is actually helpful for them to display to other deer when there might be something, a threat in the area where they need to get away from it. So what they do is when they run, you'll often notice that their tails will stick up in the air, and you'll see the white of that tail, and that's one way to see them really well. And like I said, that is a warning, or a kind of like a flag to the other deer that are hanging around with them, that there's something that they need to get away from. So that's what that tail is really useful for them, is to use as a sign to other deer in the area that they need to get moving. This doe here that I was watching, she was pretty content with me. She wasn't too threatened by me, but there was something coming up from the other side of the bushes there, on the other side of the trail, and I think she heard people talking and walking, so she was at attention there, as you can see with her ears. They have excellent hearing. It's one of the things I want you to notice while we are watching these videos is how they move their ears. I love their ears. Deer, white-tailed deer, and other deer, they have very large ears. And those large ears help them to hear what's coming long before we do. And they can turn those ears in different directions so they can pick up sounds coming from different directions. Now, white-tailed deer are omnivores, and they're not considered predators. I'm sorry, they're not omnivores. I meant to say herbivores, which means that they eat plants. They are not predators. They don't eat other animals. So their eyes are on their sides of their head rather than their eyes being in the front. If you compare it to something like a wolf, where their eyes are in the front. because when they have their heads down and they're eating, they want to be able to see with their eyes, see from the directions on their, or different directions on their sides if an animal is coming to them. And then those ears are really useful for them hearing anything that's coming from different directions. That's one reason why it can be hard to see them if we're out with large groups and being really loud on the trails, because they can hear us long before we hear, or before we know that they're there, and then they'll take off running. So those ears are really good for that. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to play this video here. One of the things I want you to notice is the fur of this deer. You're going to notice in a lot of the videos that I've taken here that their fur is looking kind of ragged right now, and that's because they're changing from their summer coat, or from their winter coat to their summer coat. So you can actually see really well in this video the reddish color coming up underneath the more tan color that they have during the winter time. So they do change out their coats for the winter and for the summer. During the winter time, their fur gets a lot thicker to help them survive the winter, and it changes color to more of a tannish, brownish color during the winter, so that way they can camouflage in with the surrounding browns and tans of the area, especially during the winter time. And then during the summertime, they change out that coat, they lose that really thick fur, and that coat changes into more of a reddish color for the summertime. And then the next fall, they'll start to change their coats again. So that helps them camouflage. Here is a video that I took you can see a whole group of deer moving through the forest here. Oftentimes, especially at dusk and at dawn, deer are what we call crepuscular. So they are most active at dusk and at dawn, those times of day when it's part dark and part light outside. So towards the end of the day, the deer will often here move up towards the front of the property in large groups, and they'll spread out into the neighborhoods, and that's one good time to see them. I apologize for how much the video is jerking around here, but I wanted you to see this. So this is another deer here, and this green thicket that you see of plants, that's called skunk cabbage. And skunk cabbage, we do have a lot of it here. It's a really pretty big green plant. It's not cabbage. It kind of looks like cabbage, and the reason they call it skunk cabbage is because especially when they're really young, they have a really strong smell if you rip the leaves or the stems, and that smell is strong enough to deter animals from eating it. That's why it's called skunk cabbage, and that's one thing that the deer here won't eat. Like I said earlier, deer are herbivores, which means that they eat plants, and they eat a lot of the wildflowers here, a lot of different kinds of plants. That's why we have little things that look like cages on our property, is to keep the wildflowers from being eaten by the deer, from all of the wildflowers being eaten. But you could see here, this deer was walking right through the skunk cabbage, not even considering it. And that's, again, because of that, of that really bad smell that they don't like, obviously, when they're trying to eat. I just noticed, so somebody said what animals eat the skunk cabbage. Not really, nothing that I can think of. That's why it grows so well here, because of that, because a lot of animals don't like to eat it. Yes, they do rub their antlers on the trees, and in a little bit I'm going to talk a little more about males versus females, but male deer, the bucks, they will rub their antlers on the tree, and they do this to spread their scent, and they also sometimes rub to get this fuzzy stuff that we call velvet off of their antlers. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute when I show you some other videos here. So I said that deer are herbivores, so I'm going to try to switch back to the camera here because I want to show you something really quickly. All right. So here is the jaw, the lower jaw of a deer. You can see the two bones right here. I'm going to turn it this way. This is the edge. This is the chin. They don't have canines up front because they don't eat meat. They eat plants. So they have a lot of molars. These teeth are good for grinding, good for eating plants. And that's one way you can tell that they're an herbivore. And this is a very typical deer jaw. This is what they look like. Let me show you another thing that I have here. This is a skull. So this is the head, the top part of the deer. And this is the upper part of the mouth right here. So this jaw doesn't necessarily belong to this skull, but if you were to put them together, it'd be something kind of like that. This jaw is a little bit big for this skull. But again, you can see the teeth that they have up here are those flat teeth that are good for grinding plants. And that's how we can tell that that's one way we can tell that they are herbivores. These big holes are where their eyes would sit. These are the eye sockets. And then, of course, these are the antlers. And the antlers for white-tailed deer only grow on the males, on the bucks. Now, let me show you another antler here. Okay. So some people, especially children, will say, oh, this is made out of wood. Looks kind of like wood. It's not wood. Or they'll say it's made out of stone. It is pretty hard and looks kind of like stone, but it's not stone. Some will say it's made out of plastic. It's not plastic. So these antlers that go on their head like this, see if I can fit in the camera here. These antlers are actually made of bone. It's the same material that you'll find in your teeth and in your fingernails. So it's bone, and it grows out of their head. Like I said, only the males have these antlers, and these antlers are especially useful for breeding. Now, right now, the males are not breeding with the females anymore. That's why you're going to see a lot of pregnant does in my videos, because the breeding happens earlier. You'll usually see the males going trying to get females' attention in the fall to winter, late fall to winter time, and that's when they're breeding with the females. That's when we see their big antlers on their head. So deer will drop their antlers every year. So these antlers fall off their head, and then they start to grow back new antlers the next year. Typically, the males that have the larger antlers are older, but that's not always the case. It also depends on resources that are available, the health of the deer, how well they grow. But usually the bigger they are, the older the deer is. But again, that's not 100% true. So right now, the deer will drop their antlers towards the end of winter time, middle to end of winter, and then they'll start growing their antlers back. And so right now, I'm going to show you a video in just a minute. You'll see of a buck that is growing back its antlers, but they're very small. And when they grow back, they have what we call velvet on them. It looks really fuzzy. And that is helping to provide blood to the antlers so they can grow. It helps to protect the antlers while they're growing. And then eventually, one reason bucks will rub their heads up against a tree is to help get that velvet off. It can be a very annoying process for them sometimes, but sometimes you will see bucks, especially towards the, I would say, middle to end of summer, that are these antlers are getting bigger. They're trying to get that velvet off. They're trying to get it ready for their big antlers or small antlers, depending on the deer, for the winter time. And for the fall and winter to breed with the females. And so that's what you're seeing. So sometimes if you see antlers bleeding, that's because of that the blood that's going to the antlers to help them grow in that stuff that we call velvet, that fuzzy stuff. So those are their antlers. All right. One other thing I'll show you here, so we don't have to keep switching back and forth between the video and the presentation, is this. So this is the foot and part of the leg of a white-tailed deer. And here you can see the two parts to its hoof. So these two parts to its hoof can actually move. They open and close like that. And it helps them to run or walk. When they're running, they open, and that gives them more stability. Now, they can't move right now because this is not on a live deer, but when they're alive, these two things can move. And then up here, they have these higher up nails that help them for stability when they're running or walking. So that is the foot of a deer. Okay, I think I see some questions coming in, and again, if I don't get to your questions right now, what I'll do is here in just a little bit is I'll go back through the questions and I'll answer them for you. I still have a little bit more to show you and share with you. So I'm going to transition here back to the presentation for the videos. Okay. So here are a couple of does that oops, why isn't it starting? Let's see. Okay. A couple of does that I had some video of, and I really wanted to share this video for two reasons. One, again, you can see their fur here, it's changing into that reddish coat. But you can also see that these two females are very pregnant. Like I said, a lot of the adult does right now on the property look like they're pregnant. And pretty soon we might start seeing fawns, we might start seeing babies, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. I have not seen any fawns on the property just yet. That doesn't mean though that there haven't been any that are born yet and they're just hiding somewhere, really well camouflaged. But pretty soon we will start seeing the fawns. So a lot of times when you see deer, they're spending a lot of time eating. So a lot of these videos you'll see are them eating. I also like this video because you could see the two does grooming each other here. And the does do spend a lot of time together. The bucks are a little bit more solitary, especially during non-breeding season. The bucks will usually hang out by themselves or maybe with another buck or two. And then during the winter time is when they really interact a lot with the females. So this next video is a video that I took out on the trail, and I wanted to take this video because it really shows how well camouflaged deer can be, especially when they're just laying in the grass during the day. Because like I said, they're most active at dusk and at dawn. So during the day, a lot of the time you're just going to see them laying down on the ground. They're bedded down, and it's really hard to see them. So there is a deer in this video. I don't know if you can spot it out. I'm going to start the video here so you can take a look around. There's a whole bunch of skunk cabbage there, but there is a deer in this video. See if you can spot it before I zoom in here. And there it is. So again, I just wanted to show you how well camouflaged they are. And a lot of times when they're laying down like that, you won't even really notice them unless they twitch their ears or they move their head. But otherwise, if they don't move, you could walk right past them and not even really notice that there is a deer there. Here I'm coming back out again with the video on the trail just to show you just how well they blend in. So when you're out during the daytime, especially when you're out on the trails, you really want to take a look down towards the ground because a lot of times they're going to be laying, resting during the day down in the brush, and they're really well camouflaged. So here's another video I took. Here in this video you can see a female up front and the male in the back. One of the things I want you to notice though is that these two are eating right now. Deer are what we call ruminants. So what they do is they have several stomachs. When they eat, that food goes down into their stomachs, into different parts of their digestive system. And then throughout the day, they actually bring the food back up. So if you watch, you'll see her throat, a big bulb, kind of like a big lump, come back up her throat. So right now she's chewing on some stuff, she's grinding it down. Oh, and I don't know if you saw, she swallowed, and it went down, and then it should come back. Oh, there it goes. And then she'll bring it back up. There it goes. And she'll start chewing on it some more. Now the deer that's behind her, like I said, is a buck, and you can actually see those antlers coming in with that velvet on it. Because like I said, this is the time of year when they're starting to grow them back, and that's why their antlers look a little fuzzy. And here again, I was just showing the rest of the trail. There's a lot of mayapple there in the background. But I'm going to zoom back here in just a moment, and you'll see how well camouflaged they are. Actually, these two deer I saw because somebody else pointed them out to me that was coming from the trail from the opposite direction, that knew that I was looking to take some video of deer and had seen these two deer just laying down. She happened to see them move. But you can see how well camouflaged they are. Okay, so here's another video of a female deer. This is another pregnant doe, and you can see she's just kind of glancing over the skunk cabbage. Like I said, they'll eat a lot of other plants, they'll eat a lot of wildflowers, but skunk cabbage is not something they'll eat. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to show you this video is you can tell she's pregnant because when she's walking there, you could actually see her nipples that are swollen. That's getting ready for when her babies are born, that she can feed her babies milk. And so you could see that here in this video. Here is a younger deer that I wanted to show you. Again, watch those ears moving and how it's paying attention to everything around it. But this deer, the one behind it is an adult doe, but the one in front is a younger deer that was probably born last summer and isn't quite full grown yet, but is getting there. They don't have, they get rid of those spots towards the end of summer, early fall, but they still remain smaller in size until, until after a year or so of age. Here's another young deer that I took some video of. So again, it's not young enough that it was born this year, but it was born probably last summer and is not quite full grown. Now you can tell a young buck because young bucks we call button bucks, and what that means is that their antlers haven't fully come in yet, but they have these knobs on their skull where those antlers are going to come in. And in just a moment you'll see a video of a button buck that I took, and that's a young buck. Look at it. I also really enjoyed this video because you could see the bugs flying around the deer's head and the deer trying to keep those bugs away by moving its ears around and moving its head around. I'm sorry about the focusing. I'm not a videographer. I do more photography than I do taking videos, but I wanted to get videos for you guys so you could feel like you're right here with me over the past few days seeing these deer. Okay, here is another young deer that was in our lawn near the nature center the other day, munching on the grass. So the deer here are pretty used to people, and this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is that the deer here, a lot of times people will go out on our trails and they'll see them approach you. So like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we do here is that we don't allow a lot of activities that would be very stressful for the wildlife. But I will say, something else that contributes to the deer not being so afraid of people is that sometimes we do have people who come out here and they will feed the deer and they'll hand feed the deer. And in the past, we used to tell people, feeding of wildlife here on our property is strictly prohibited. We don't allow it because we don't want to impact the wildlife. We do put up bird feeders, but that's the extent of our feeding. And sometimes people will still come out and feed the deer because either they don't know or because they really enjoy it. And I can get it that it's a lot of fun, but we don't want the wildlife to get too accustomed to people. And another thing that I want to mention is that there is a new law that has been over a year now by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to protect deer that has banned feeding and baiting of deer in the lower peninsula of Michigan. And the reason they did this is because of a disease called chronic wasting disease. And I'm going to spend just a moment here to tell you about it. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it is important for you to know. It hasn't been found here in this region right here in the lower peninsula, but it has been found in some counties not too far from here. And chronic wasting disease, it's a fatal nervous system disease found in cervids like deer, elk, and moose. And it's transmitted through direct animal-to-animal contact, contact with saliva, feces, carcass, parts of infected animals, and it can spread through the soil that has been contaminated with any of these tissues or fluids. So it's been found in at least 25 states in the United States. And this disease is not caused by a virus or bacteria. It's actually something that's a naturally occurring protein called a prion that changes shape the way it's not supposed to, and it causes this disease. And I won't go into too much because I don't want to go. I could spend forever talking about the biology of this, but it affects the animal's nervous system. And this process may take as long as 2 years before the animal begins to show signs of the disease. And right now there's no known cure. This disease spreads most often in areas where deer are grouping together. And that's why this is so important to share with you, because the reason they have banned feeding of deer and baiting of deer is because that encourages them to gather together in these groups. And that's how this disease is spread very quickly. And we don't want this to happen. When you see these animals that have symptoms of these disease, it's really kind of sad. And so that's something really important to keep in mind. Like I said, they haven't been found in this disease hasn't been found in this area yet. But if you suspect a deer that looks malnourished, that is showing symptoms like showing erratic behavior, if you're seeing some signs like that, you can always report it to the DNR so they can investigate, because they want to identify this disease as soon as possible. But again, for the baiting of and feeding of deer, it's very important for their well-being, for their health, not to do that right now, because we don't want to encourage them to gather in big groups, in abnormally large groups, in condensed areas where they can spread this disease really well. So it's for their health and their benefit that we do that. So just keep that in mind too. There are ways you can still put out food for birds and not feed the deer, or try not to feed the deer. It's still okay to do that. But doing activities that are likely to end up with the deer eating them, like putting a lot of food on the ground for them, is prohibited. You can find out more about that on the Michigan Department of Natural Resources website, on michigan.gov/DNR, or you can go on to the Chronic Wasting Disease website, which is cwd-info.org, and there's a lot of great information there. Okay, so here is another video of this young deer. Like I said, it was not very fearful of me. I was up by the nature center, and this is in our right out back behind the building, and they will often come up to the building, especially towards the end of the day when they're starting to head out towards other areas for the evening to spread out a little bit. And this was towards the evening part of the day when they tend to come up to the nature center. Now, if they do approach you, even though it's really cute, I love the deer myself, don't try to pet them or feed them. Again, as I said, that's strictly prohibited now with the law by the DNR. It's against the law to feed the deer. Okay, go on to the next video here. So here is a video of what I was telling you guys about earlier, the button buck. So you can see those two little knobs on his head. So this is a young buck, and those two little knobs on his head are where the antlers will come up as he grows and as he matures. So again, if you see knobs on a head of a young deer, that's one way to help identify whether it's a male or a female. They have those little knobs, then you know that it's a young male. Let's see here. Okay, so just a couple of days ago, I took some video. This is not on my good camera, but these were taken on my cell phone because my good camera had died because I was out on the trail so long taking video. But I wanted to show this with you guys because it really is kind of entertaining. So the deer on the right is a buck. You can see its antlers starting to come in. It's got that fuzz on it. And the young deer that you see there, I couldn't quite tell because I couldn't get close enough if it was a button buck, if it was a young male, or a young female. But it was a younger deer, and I have several videos here I'm going to show you that are actually quite entertaining to watch. But this young deer was being quite frisky, and it almost looked like it was taunting this buck a little bit, testing the ground, while also keeping its distance sometimes, you know, because of giving the older buck, you know, some distance, because the older buck is, of course, more dominant. But it was really interesting to watch these two interact. And here you will see them get close, and the older buck gives it a quick lick, but then he pushes the younger deer away a little bit. But this went on for probably about 15 minutes where these two were interacting. This is right by the pond by our nature center. And I have seen some younger deer lately coming out to this area, and they'll start jumping around, and it looks like they look like they're playing with each other. But this was a younger deer interacting with a buck. While I let you watch this video, I'm just going to scroll through the comments here really quickly. See if there are any questions that I've missed. What I found interesting about this buck here, it's kind of hard to see, but his antlers are actually coming in not at the same angle. One antler is kind of coming in to the side and the other one is coming straight up. Here's some more interaction between the two. Like I said, this went on for like 15 minutes where these two were interacting, and this young deer was, like I said, it almost seemed like it was taunting the older deer. So I think I saw somebody ask how long can they live. Typical lifespan in the wild is about 10 years. That's on the high end of their lifespan. Average lifespan is probably about 2 years. In captivity, there have been deer that have lived to be about 16 years old. So the wild is definitely a harder place for them to live, and a lot of these deer don't make it past their first year. They don't, you know, it's hard when they're younger. It's a lot harder. They're more prone to having issues with predators. And a lot of times deer will give birth to one young, although you will see from time to time them giving birth to twins, and every once in a while there might be triplets. There was a set of triplets last summer here. So it is possible to see triplets, although it's pretty rare. This video I enjoyed because I was standing there filming this, and this young deer, like I said, was kind of taunting this older deer, this buck, and he was kind of playfully running around like that, and all of a sudden he noticed that I was standing there because he was coming in my direction, and he stopped and looked at me like, "Oh, you're there." And then he went back to being more playful with this buck that you see here. If you saw the deer, this buck, he kind of put his nose up in the air. When deer are trying to figure out what's going on, they do take in a lot of scents through their nose, and you'll see them kind of lift their heads up in the air and sniff the air to get a good whiff of what's going on around them. And there at the end of this video was a good example of those leaps that they can take. I don't know if you saw that that deer take a pretty good leap over something when it went into the brush there. Again, they can get much higher than that, but you'd think that they have springs in their legs. All right. So, like I said, we haven't seen any young yet. We haven't seen any fawns yet. And I'm not going to go into too much detail right now about the babies, because I am going to do a Wildlife Babies live Facebook program, and I'll be talking about deer and their babies as well. But this is a picture I took last summer of a mom and its older fawn. This wasn't a newly born fawn. It was probably towards, I think it was maybe July that I took this picture, but we can start to see a baby deer at any time now, and you can tell a baby deer, especially not just because of its size, but because of those spots, and those spots help them blend in very well in the brush down in the grasses. And I want to show you just how well they can blend in. So this was a group that I was out with last summer, or the summer before. This may have been 2 summers ago. And we were walking the trail. So the kids here are standing on the trail. I'm standing right behind them. And you'll notice that they're bending down and they're looking at something in the grass. Those are skunk cabbage leaves sticking up there. You might see something that's a little bit of brown with some white on it. And that was a fawn. Here's a close-up image that I took of the fawn by zooming in. I didn't walk up to the fawn. This was just zooming in so you could see the fawn better. It was not far from the trail. And this is something that I want to make sure everybody is aware of, because deer will sometimes leave their babies in areas that a lot of people walk through. So what happens is does will, during the daytime, they'll find what they consider a safe spot for their fawn. They'll leave them, and then the doe will go off, eat, rest throughout the day, and then she'll come back to her fawn. She knows where her fawn is. She knows the fawn's scent. So if you ever see a baby deer like this, a fawn laying by itself in even what it seems like a weird area, like if it's left right in the middle of the trail or next to a building, don't immediately think that the mom abandoned it, because this is typical for moms to do. I would say if that fawn is there left by itself and you never see the mom for more than a day or so, then I would start to worry and contact somebody. But you should never try to rescue the deer or the fawn yourself. It's actually against the law for anybody to do to try to rescue an animal unless they have a permit from the Michigan DNR. So if you see something like this and that fawn has been there a long time and you're concerned, contact somebody. You can go onto the Michigan Department of Natural Resources website and find out who's licensed, and they have their phone numbers on there. You're always welcome to call us here at the Nature Center, and then we'll redirect you to somebody who can help you. But you don't want to pick up the fawn and take it with you. You want to leave it right where it's at, because if you pick it up and take it with you, then mom's not going to be able to find it. And mom is going to do the best job of taking care of that young fawn. But they do blend in amazingly well. Like I said, this was not far from the trail, as you could see in that other picture. And I'm going to go forward here. Here is a cell phone video I took, so it's not the greatest video, of this same fawn who eventually stood up and was walking, started moving through the skunk cabbage. But you can just barely see its head there. So this was a very young fawn, and it was just sticking its head up through the skunk cabbage. And then the next video here, you'll see it moving around a little bit. It was really quite adorable because it was so small. Probably a couple days old if I had to guess. Fawns can start walking the same day that they're born, even within a couple hours. And they need to be able to start walking quickly because of predators, especially when they're babies. They're more likely to be found by predators. So if you do see a fawn, you want to still make sure that you keep your distance, that you don't disrupt it too much, because obviously you don't want it to leave the area and then mom not be able to find it as easily. So this last video I'm going to show you here is actually a video that I took during the fall. I think this may have been a couple years ago as well. And this is a buck that has its antlers fully grown back in. And this is the time of year when they are starting to breed and mate with the females. So this buck here that was coming through the yard by the Nature Center building was following some does that you'll see here in just a minute. And bucks are more solitary. They're also more skittish of people. They stay away a lot of times from people, but during their breeding season, when they are on the move and they have one thing on their mind, and that's breeding, then we're more likely to see them up around the building because they're more distracted by the females. And again, you could see those really big antlers that buck had on its head that he grew back in for that season. And so that's the time of year, fall into winter, you're going to see the bucks with those big antlers on their head. Okay. I'm going to transition back here to the camera. Hopefully you guys are still with me and seeing and hearing me okay. I think I saw that there were some comments came through. So I'm going to try to scroll back through here and see if there was anything I missed. And if I miss it now, again, I'll go back after this program and also answer your questions. Are the deer more active with less visitors? I would say so. Like I said, the deer here are very used to people, and it's amazing how active they'll be even with people walking the trails. But when there are big groups, like when we're doing our big programs where there's a lot of people out on the trails, the deer tend to stay away. So I would say that they're probably a little bit more active when there are less people here. Baby deer is called a fawn. That was somebody else's question, and you saw those pictures with the spots on it. Are deer dangerous? That is a great question. I would not say that they are dangerous as in that they're likely to attack people. I would not mess with a fawn because, a female might get protective of it. And when I say protective, they're not going to attack you and bite you, but they do kick, and you don't want to be kicked by a deer. And the bucks, especially during breeding season when they're going through what we call the rut, they can be aggressive. So you want to give them their space because you don't want a buck to come after you with those antlers. When they have those hormones going and they've got that one thing on their mind, they can be a little bit more aggressive. So it's important to give them that space. Let's see. Okay, just checking here to see if there are any other questions that I may have missed. How long does it take for the antlers to drop? That is a great question. I don't know the exact amount of time, and what may happen sometimes is the antlers don't drop at the same time. So you might see a deer running around with one antler on its head, and I've seen that quite frequently because one will drop and the other will stay up. So when you say how long does it take for them to drop, the antlers, they grow throughout the summer, and then I would say they're about at their full extent by the end of summer. You'll see them have their full set of antlers into the fall, and then you will see them with their antlers through the winter as they are going through the rut. So the antlers typically start shedding in around mid-January. So they January 30th or so, their antlers will shed, and then what we call the pedicles, that the part where the antlers are attached to it, will heal, and then around mid-March, the new antler growth will come in, and you'll start to see them come in with those with the velvet on it. And when the velvet is shed, I would say towards the end of June or so, then those antlers continue to grow, and they're fully grown about September. And again, they start shedding them in about January. So that's kind of the life cycle, I guess you could say, of those antlers and the process that they go through in a very quick summary. Okay. All right, so I hope you all enjoyed learning about the white-tailed deer here today. Again, there's a lot more I could talk about, but I don't want to keep you guys on here too long. Hopefully when we reopen, we'll do more programs soon, and you guys can come out and come to our programs. Otherwise, in the meantime, come out and enjoy the trails, and you can see the deer for yourselves. You're very, very, very likely to see a deer when you come out here, especially the more quiet you are and the more peaceful you are, the more likely you are to see the deer. If you come during the daytime, look for them bedding down in the grass. If you come dusk or dawn, they're more likely to be on the move, and you're more likely to see them moving around and being active. So those are some tips to see them. And yes, again, if you see the fawns being left alone during the daytime, don't worry. If this is, sometimes people will call here because they have seen a fawn laying in their backyard and they don't see the mom. And what I usually tell them is that's okay. You know, if the fawn is still there and it hasn't moved and you haven't seen the mom come in by the following day, then you might want to contact somebody to see what they say if they think that there is something wrong with this fawn or it's lost its mom somehow. But otherwise, a lot of the time, they're just left to relax while mom is taking care of business during the day. All right, I've gone on a long time now, so thank you again for joining me. I hope to see you next Tuesday at 1 p.m. I'll announce that topic a little bit later on, either today or tomorrow. And have a great weekend. Come out and enjoy the trails. Thank you for your donations. I saw some donations come in, so thank you for that. And I hope everyone takes care and stays healthy. It's good to see everybody. Bye.